Marcus Chen wiped the grease from his hands as the emergency beacon cut through the silence of his workshop. The sound meant trouble somewhere in the outer rim, and trouble usually meant credits for a good engineer willing to take risks. He'd been working on salvaged parts for 3 days straight, trying to keep his small repair station operational after the last corporate raid had stripped most independent mechanics out of business. The beacon signal came from Sector 7, a dangerous stretch of space where pirates and worse things lurked between the asteroid fields. Most rescue services wouldn't venture there, but Marcus had built his reputation on going where others feared to travel. His modified transport ship, the Gearhead, sat ready in the docking bay with enough tools and spare parts to handle almost any mechanical emergency. Within an hour, Marcus was threading his way through the asteroid field, following the distress signal to its source. What he found surprised him. Instead of the usual human vessel in distress, a sleek alien ship drifted powerless among the rocks. The design was unlike anything in the standard databases, with flowing curves and energy patterns that seemed almost organic. As he approached, his communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke in accented but clear English, obviously transmitted through some kind of translation system. The speaker was female, and her tone carried both relief and wariness. "Unknown vessel, I am Zarathes of the Veltar Confederation. My ship has suffered critical engine failure. I can offer payment for assistance, but I warn you that my people do not react well to deception or theft." Marcus keyed his transmitter. "This is Marcus Chen, independent engineer. I'm here to help, not to rob you. Mind if I dock and take a look at your problem?" There was a long pause before she replied. "You may dock, but understand that I am armed and trained in combat. Any aggressive action will be met with force." The docking process proved challenging since the alien ship's ports didn't match human standards. Marcus had to use magnetic clamps and flexible connectors to create a secure airlock between the vessels. When he finally cycled through into the alien ship, he got his first look at his client. Zarathes stood nearly 7 feet tall, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer slightly in the ship's lighting. Her hair was white as starlight and fell past her shoulders in intricate braids. She wore form-fitting clothing that looked both practical and elegant, with various tools and what was obviously a weapon attached to her belt. Her eyes were large and golden, watching Marcus with careful intelligence. "You are smaller than I expected," she said, her voice carrying a musical quality even through the translator. "Human engineers have a reputation for being larger and more aggressive." Marcus grinned as he set down his tool case. "Sorry to disappoint. I'm probably not what most people expect from a human engineer. Now, what exactly is wrong with your ship?" She led him through corridors that seemed to pulse with soft bioluminescent lighting. The ship's interior was beautiful in a way that human vessels never achieved, with curved walls and surfaces that seemed grown rather than built. Every detail spoke of advanced technology integrated seamlessly with artistic design. "The primary fusion core has destabilized," Zarathes explained as they entered the engine compartment. "We attempted to outrun pirates 3 days ago and pushed the engines beyond safe parameters. Since then, power output has been declining steadily." Marcus whistled low as he examined the engine assembly. The technology was centuries beyond human engineering, but the principles were recognizable. Fusion was fusion, regardless of who built the reactor. However, the containment systems and control mechanisms were unlike anything he'd ever seen. "This is beautiful work," he said, running his scanner over the core assembly. "Whoever designed this really understood energy flow dynamics. But I can see your problem. You've got cascade failures in your magnetic containment grid. The field generators are trying to compensate, but they're burning out one by one." Zarathes moved closer, her golden eyes studying his scanner readings with interest. "You understand our technology? The last 3 engineers we encountered claimed our systems were too alien to repair." "Technology is technology," Marcus replied, already forming a plan. "The applications might be different, but physics works the same way for everyone. Your containment grid is based on the same principles as our fusion plants, just about 1,000 times more elegant. I think I can fix this, but I'll need to fabricate some replacement components." She watched in fascination as Marcus began disassembling parts of the containment system. His movements were confident and precise, showing years of experience with complex machinery. Unlike the crude force approach most humans used, he worked with careful respect for the delicate systems. Your methods are different from what I expected, Zarathes observed. Human engineering is supposed to be brutal and inefficient. Marcus glanced up from his work. Maybe some of it is. I learned my trade from an old Martian engineer who believed in understanding what you're working with instead of just hitting it with bigger hammers. He always said that the best engineering looks like art when it's done right. As he worked, Marcus found himself genuinely impressed by the alien technology. Every component was designed with multiple functions, and the entire system operated with an efficiency that human engineers could only dream of achieving. The materials alone represented advances that would revolutionize human technology if they could be reproduced. How long have your people been using fusion technology? He asked while carefully adjusting a field generator. Approximately 8,000 years, Zarathes replied. We achieved interstellar flight while your species was still discovering agriculture. Yet your analysis of our systems shows understanding that surprises me. How is this possible? Marcus shrugged as he connected his portable power unit to bypass a damaged conduit. Humans might be new to the galaxy, but we're good at figuring things out. We've had to be. Most of our technology comes from studying alien artifacts and reverse engineering them. Makes you develop a feel for how different approaches to the same problems work. The repair work took 6 hours of careful adjustment and component replacement. Marcus had to adapt several human-made parts to interface with the alien systems, requiring creative solutions and precise calibration. Throughout the process, Zarathes watched his every move with growing respect for his technical skill. Your reputation for mechanical aptitude appears to be well-founded, she said as Marcus made final adjustments to the containment grid. I have observed engineers from 12 different species, but none approached problems with your combination of analytical thinking and intuitive understanding. Thanks, Marcus said, wiping sweat from his forehead. Though I have to say, working on your ship has been educational. Your people really know how to build things that last. Some of these components are probably older than human civilization, and they still work perfectly. He activated the repaired systems and stepped back as the fusion core hummed to life with smooth, steady power output. All the readings showed green across the board, with efficiency levels actually higher than the original specifications suggested. Impossible, Zarathes breathed, staring at the displays. The power output exceeds design parameters by 7%. How did you achieve this? Marcus grinned proudly. I noticed that your field geometry was a little conservative. Made some small adjustments to optimize the plasma flow patterns. Nothing dramatic, just tuning the system to run a bit more efficiently. Should give you better performance and longer component life. She turned to study him with an expression he couldn't quite read. You improved our technology while repairing it. This suggests capabilities that contradict everything my people believe about human engineering. Well, like I said, we're good at figuring things out. Marcus began packing his tools, satisfied with the work. Your ship should run better than ever now. The repairs should hold up for years, assuming you don't push the engines past redline again. Zarathes was quiet for a long moment, apparently considering something important. When she spoke again, her voice carried a formal tone that hadn't been there before. Marcus Chen, I find myself in an unusual situation. The quality of your work exceeds anything I have encountered from other species, including my own people. You have not only repaired my vessel but improved its performance while showing respect for our technology and culture. This level of competence and integrity demands recognition. Marcus looked up from his tool case, sensing that something significant was happening. I appreciate that, but I was just doing my job. Send me whatever you think the work is worth, and we'll call it even. No, she said firmly. Among my people, exceptional service must be acknowledged properly. I cannot simply pay you credits and pretend this encounter never happened. You have demonstrated that humans possess capabilities our government refuses to acknowledge. This information could change the balance of power in this sector of space. Something in her tone made Marcus pause his packing. What exactly are you saying? Zarathes straightened to her full height, suddenly, looking very formal and important. I have not been entirely truthful about my identity. I am not simply a citizen of the Veltar Confederation. I am Zarathes Velnatha, daughter of the High Chancellor and heir to the ruling council. What you have done today has implications that extend far beyond a simple repair job. Marcus felt his stomach drop.
He just unknowingly assisted alien royalty, and, from her expression, that was going to complicate his life in ways he couldn't imagine.
I see, he said carefully.
So what happens now?
Now, Zarathes said with a smile that was both grateful and slightly predatory, you discover what it means to earn the favor of the Veltar royal house.
I guarantee that your life is about to become much more interesting.
The way she said it made Marcus wonder if interesting was necessarily a good thing. He'd come out here looking for simple repair work and credits to keep his operation running. Instead, he'd apparently stumbled into galactic politics involving alien nobility and technology that could shift the balance of power between species. As he looked around the beautifully designed engine compartment, with its seamlessly integrated systems that he'd just improved through human engineering intuition, Marcus realized that this encounter was going to change everything. The question was whether the change would destroy his quiet life as an independent engineer or open doors to possibilities he'd never imagined. Zarathes was watching him with those golden eyes, clearly waiting for his reaction to her revelation. Whatever came next, Marcus had the feeling that his simple life of fixing broken machines was about to become a lot more complicated. Well, he said finally, I guess we should talk about what kind of interesting you have in mind. Her smile widened, showing teeth that were just slightly too sharp to be completely reassuring. Oh, Marcus-chan, I think you will find that the universe is much larger and more exciting than you ever suspected. The question is whether you are brave enough to accept what I am about to offer you. Outside the ship, the asteroid field continued its ancient dance through space, indifferent to the fact that a chance encounter between a human engineer and alien princess had just set in motion events that would reshape the political landscape of the Outer Rim. Marcus had come looking for credits and found himself on the threshold of adventure, opportunity, and dangers he couldn't yet comprehend. Marcus studied the alien princess's expression, trying to gauge how much trouble he'd accidentally stumbled into. In his experience, when important people started talking about offers and favors, regular folks like him usually ended up getting the short end of the deal. Before we discuss any offers, he said carefully, maybe you should explain why the daughter of an alien chancellor was flying solo through pirate-infested space.
That seems like the kind of thing that would come with escorts and security.
Zarathes's smile faded, replaced by a harder expression that made her look more dangerous and more regal at the same time.
A perceptive question.
The answer involves politics that could get us both killed if the wrong people learn of this conversation. She gestured for him to follow her to what appeared to be the ship's common area. The space was elegantly appointed with furniture that looked both comfortable and artistic, flowing curves that seemed to grow naturally from the floor and walls. A large viewing port showed the slowly rotating asteroid field outside. My father leads a faction within the Confederation that believes humans represent a significant threat to galactic stability, she began, settling into a chair that molded itself to support her frame. According to our intelligence reports, your species is aggressive, unpredictable, and technologically primitive. The official policy is to contain human expansion through economic pressure and territorial restrictions. Marcus took a seat across from her, noting that the alien furniture adapted to his smaller human frame automatically.
And you disagree with that policy?
I have spent the last 2 years conducting unauthorized research into human capabilities, Zarathes said. What I discovered contradicts every assumption our government has made about your species.
Today's encounter confirms my worst fears about our strategic blindness.
She activated a holographic display that showed star charts covering several sectors of space. Human colonies appeared as small red dots scattered across the map, dwarfed by the vast territories controlled by various alien civilizations. Look at this from a military perspective, she continued, highlighting certain systems. In 50 years, humans have established colonies in environments that other species consider uninhabitable. Your people thrive in high-gravity worlds, toxic atmospheres, and radiation levels that would kill most galactic species.
You adapt to conditions that we can only survive with extensive technological support.
Marcus studied the display with growing unease.
So we're hardy. That doesn't make us a threat to anyone.
Hardiness combined with rapid technological advancement and unconventional problem-solving abilities creates a dangerous combination, Zarathes replied. Your species reverse engineers alien technology at a rate that terrifies our military analysts. What took my people centuries to develop, humans master in decades through pure determination and creative thinking. The holographic display shifted to show technical comparisons between human and alien technologies. Marcus was surprised to see how quickly human engineering had progressed compared to other species' development curves. The Veltar Confederation has dominated this sector for 3,000 years, Zarathes explained.
We achieved our position through superior technology and careful diplomacy.
Other species accept our leadership because they believe we are more advanced than they are.
But humans threaten that balance. How exactly do we threaten anyone? Marcus asked.
We're still barely able to defend our own colonies, let alone challenge established galactic powers.
Zarathes leaned forward, her golden eyes intense. Because you adapt and improve everything you touch.
Today, you took technology that represents the pinnacle of Veltar engineering and made it work better than our own designers achieved. You did it in 6 hours with improvised parts and intuitive understanding that our engineers spend decades trying to develop. Marcus felt uncomfortable with the direction this conversation was heading.
So what's the real problem here? Are you worried that humans might eventually compete with Veltar technology?
I am worried that my father's faction will declare war on humanity based on flawed intelligence and strategic miscalculations, she said bluntly. The hardline faction believes that humans must be eliminated before you become powerful enough to challenge Confederation supremacy. They see your rapid development as proof that you represent an existential threat to galactic order. The weight of her words settled over Marcus like a cold blanket. He'd known that humans weren't particularly welcome in most parts of galactic space, but the idea of preemptive war seemed insane.
That's crazy, he said. Humans aren't planning to conquer anyone. Most of our colonies are just trying to survive and build decent lives for their people.
I know that, Zarathes replied. But convincing the Confederation Council requires proof that contradicts decades of military intelligence reports.
Which brings me to my offer.
She stood and walked to the viewing port, gazing out at the asteroid field with an expression that suggested she was weighing momentous decisions. I need an ally who understands both human capabilities and galactic politics, she said without turning around. Someone who can help me demonstrate that cooperation with humanity serves Confederation interests better than conflict. Marcus joined her at the viewport, studying her profile as she stared into space.
What exactly are you asking me to do?
Come with me to the Confederation capital, she said. Serve as my technical advisor and cultural liaison. Help me prove that humans can be valuable partners rather than dangerous enemies.
And if I refuse?
Zarathes turned to face him directly.
Then, I return home with another report that my father's advisors will dismiss as naive idealism. The hardline faction continues building support for preemptive action against human colonies.
Within 5 years, we will likely see the beginning of a war that could devastate both our species. Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. He'd come out here to fix a broken engine and earn enough credits to keep his repair station operational. Now he was being asked to help prevent an interstellar war.
Why me? He asked. I'm just a mechanic. Surely there are human diplomats or politicians better qualified for this kind of work.
Diplomats and politicians deal in words and promises, Zarathes replied. What I need is someone who can demonstrate human capabilities in ways that cannot be denied or dismissed. Your work today proved that humans possess technological insights that could benefit the entire galaxy. That proof carries more weight than any diplomatic speech. Marcus walked back to his chair, trying to process the implications of what she was proposing.
What would this actually involve?
I can't just abandon my business and disappear into alien space indefinitely.
Zarathes returned to her seat, her expression becoming more businesslike.
Initially, a journey of perhaps 6 months to the capital world. You would be presented as a technical consultant studying opportunities for human Confederation cooperation. Your actual role would be to demonstrate human engineering capabilities to key military and industrial leaders.
And the risks?
Considerable, she admitted. The hardline faction includes individuals who would prefer that you disappear rather than contradict their assumptions about human primitiveness.
There would also be risks from other alien species who benefit from the current restrictions on human expansion.
Marcus considered the offer while watching the slowly tumbling asteroids outside. The safe choice was to complete the repair job, accept payment, and return to his quiet life fixing broken machines. But the safe choice might also mean standing by while political forces beyond his control push two civilizations toward unnecessary war.
What guarantees do I have? He asked. How do I know this isn't some elaborate scheme to kidnap a human engineer for technology theft? Zarathes stood again and moved to an ornate cabinet against the far wall.
She opened it and withdrew an object that made Marcus's breath catch in his throat. It was a crystalline device about the size of a human hand, pulsing with internal light that seemed to respond to her touch. "This is a Veltar royal seal," she said solemnly. "It carries my personal authority and the protection of the royal house. No Veltar citizen may harm you while you carry this, and it grants you diplomatic immunity throughout Confederation space." She held the device toward him, and Marcus could feel energy radiating from it even at arm's length. Whatever technology powered the seal was far beyond human understanding. "More importantly," she continued, "it contains a complete technical database of Confederation technology. If you choose to return to human space, you may take this knowledge with you as payment for your assistance. The information contained in this device could advance human technology by centuries." Marcus stared at the offered seal, understanding that accepting it would fundamentally change the course of his life. The technology alone would be invaluable to human development, but the personal risks were enormous. "There's something else you should know," Zarathes added quietly. "My research into human capabilities has revealed strategic advantages that neither the Confederation nor your own government fully understands. Humans possess qualities that could revolutionize galactic civilization if properly directed." "What kind of qualities?" "Innovation under pressure, adaptability to impossible conditions, and, most importantly, the ability to find solutions that more advanced species overlook because they contradict conventional thinking. Today's repair work was a perfect example. You achieved results that our best engineers would consider impossible." Marcus reached out and took the seal, feeling its warm weight in his palm. The moment his fingers made contact, information began flowing into his mind, not words or images, but direct knowledge of the device's functions and significance. "I need time to think about this," he said, though he could already feel himself being drawn toward acceptance. "Time is something we may not have," Zarathes replied. "My absence from the capital has already been noted. If I return without compelling evidence to support my position, the hardline faction may accelerate their timeline for action against human colonies." Marcus pocketed the seal and stood up, his decision crystallizing as he considered the alternatives. "If I agree to this, I want certain conditions met." "Name them." "First, I need to send a message to my business partner explaining my absence without revealing operational details. Second, I want regular communication access to monitor events in human space. Third, if things go badly, I want your guarantee that you'll help me return safely to human territory." Zarathes nodded gravely. "Agreed on all points. There is one additional consideration, however. The work ahead will require close collaboration between us, and Veltar society has specific protocols regarding relationships between unmarried individuals of different social ranks." "What kind of protocols?" "To maintain your credibility as my advisor, we will need to present a carefully constructed social relationship that satisfies court expectations while protecting both our reputations. This may require creative interpretation of various customs and traditions." Marcus had the feeling that there were layers of meaning in her words that he wasn't quite grasping. "What exactly does that involve?" Zarathus's smile returned, carrying hints of mischief alongside its diplomatic warmth. "Nothing that should concern an engineer as adaptable as yourself. You have already proven capable of working with unfamiliar systems and achieving unexpected results." "Why do I get the feeling that you're not telling me everything?" "Because I am not," she admitted with refreshing honesty. "There are aspects of Veltar society and politics that you will need to learn through experience. Attempting to explain everything in advance would only create confusion and anxiety about situations that may never arise." Marcus looked around the elegant ship interior, thinking about the choice before him. He could return to his repair station and his quiet life, knowing that he might have helped prevent a war but choosing personal safety over galactic responsibility. Or he could accept the most dangerous and potentially rewarding opportunity he'd ever encountered. "All right," he said finally. "I'll do it. But I reserve the right to leave if things get too dangerous or if I think you're not being honest with me about the risks." Zarathus's expression lit up with genuine relief and excitement. "You will not regret this decision, Marcus Chen. Together, we will change the course of galactic history." As she began outlining their travel plans to the Confederation capital, Marcus wondered whether he'd just made the smartest decision of his life or the most catastrophically stupid one. Either way, his quiet existence as an independent engineer was officially over, replaced by an adventure that would test every skill he'd ever developed and some he hadn't yet discovered he possessed. The journey to the Confederation capital took 3 weeks through hyperspace lanes that Marcus had never seen on any human navigation charts. Zarathus used the time to educate him about Veltar society, politics, and the complex web of alliances that held the Confederation together.
The education proved more challenging than fixing alien fusion reactors.
No, Marcus, Zarathus said patiently as they reviewed diplomatic protocols for the 100th time. You cannot simply address the High Chancellor as Sir or Your Excellency. The proper form requires acknowledgement of his ancestral achievements, his current rank, and the weather patterns of his birthworld. Marcus rubbed his temples, trying to memorize another set of incomprehensible social rules.
How does anyone remember all this stuff? And what do weather patterns have to do with showing respect?
Veltar society evolved on a world with extreme climate variations, she explained. The ability to predict and adapt to weather changes was essential for survival.
Acknowledging someone's birth weather demonstrates that you understand their fundamental character traits.
Right, Marcus said wearily. So the High Chancellor was born during a volcanic storm season, which means he's naturally decisive and temperamental, and I have to reference that every time I speak to him.
Exactly. You are learning.
They were sitting in the ship's common area, which Zarathus had converted into an improvised classroom. Holographic displays showed complex organizational charts of the Confederation government, with color-coded indicators showing which officials supported which political factions. Tell me again why I can't just demonstrate human engineering capabilities and let the results speak for themselves, Marcus said.
Wouldn't that be more convincing than playing political games? Zarathus gave him a look that suggested he was missing something fundamental.
Because in Veltar society, technical competence without proper social standing means nothing. If you appear before the council as a crude barbarian who happens to be good with machinery, they will dismiss your abilities as mere primitive cunning. Marcus studied the political charts, noting how many officials were marked in red as supporters of the hardline faction.
So I need to convince them that humans are both technically capable and socially sophisticated?
More than that, she replied.
You need to demonstrate that human perspectives can enhance Veltar achievements rather than threatening them. The hardliners argue that human unpredictability makes your species inherently dangerous. You must prove that your adaptability is an asset to galactic civilization.
Over the following days, Marcus learned to navigate the subtle complexities of Veltar communication. Every conversation contained layers of meaning that went far beyond the obvious words. Tone, gesture, timing, and even the choice of which dialect to use all carried significance that could make the difference between success and catastrophic failure. Your species really doesn't make anything simple, do you? He commented after a particularly difficult lesson on the 17 different ways to express disagreement without giving offense.
Complexity prevents misunderstanding, Zarathus replied.
When communication requires precision and thoughtfulness, conflicts arise from genuine differences rather than simple miscommunication. Or maybe it just makes conflicts more complicated when they do happen. She paused in her explanation of court hierarchy, studying his expression with those penetrating golden eyes. You find our customs unnecessarily elaborate. I find them incredibly sophisticated but also exhausting, Marcus said honestly.
Humans tend to be more direct in our communication. When we have problems, we usually just talk about them openly until we find solutions. And if direct communication fails to resolve the disagreement? Marcus shrugged.
Then, we argue, sometimes loudly, until someone convinces the others or we agree to disagree.
It's not elegant, but it usually works. Zarathus was quiet for a long moment, apparently considering his words. Perhaps that directness is itself a valuable quality. The ability to address problems without elaborate social rituals could be useful in crisis situations. That's what I've been trying to tell you. Humans might not be sophisticated by your standards, but we're pretty good at solving problems quickly when we need to. The conversation was interrupted by the ship's navigation system announcing their arrival at the Confederation capital system. Marcus joined Zarathus at the viewing port to get his first look at the heart of galactic civilization. The sight took his breath away. The capital world of Veltarun was surrounded by massive orbital stations, each one larger than most human space colonies. Ships of dozens of different alien designs moved through carefully managed traffic lanes, creating a constant flow of commerce and communication that dwarfed anything in human space. Impressive, Marcus murmured as they approached the primary orbital platform.
This represents 3,000 years of careful development and cooperation between 47 different species, Zarathus said with obvious pride. The Confederation maintains peace and prosperity across 200 star systems. Marcus watched smaller vessels moving between the massive stations, noting the efficiency of the traffic management and the obvious wealth represented by the infrastructure.
And your people are worried that humans might threaten all this?
Some of my people fear that human unpredictability could destabilize the careful balance that maintains the system, she corrected. They believe that introducing a new variable into established patterns risks catastrophic disruption. Their ship was guided to a private docking facility reserved for royal vessels.
As they prepared to disembark, Zarathus handed Marcus a set of clothing that looked both elegant and practical. Standard diplomatic attire, she explained.
The design incorporates status indicators that will identify you as my advisor and grant you appropriate access privileges. Marcus examined the garments, noting their superior materials and sophisticated construction.
Even their clothing was centuries ahead of human equivalents. How do you want to handle introductions? I assume there are protocols for presenting a human advisor to your government.
There are, but we will need to be creative in our interpretation, Zarathus said with a slight smile. Officially, you are a technical consultant studying opportunities for expanded trade relationships. Unofficially, you are my chosen advisor on matters relating to human capabilities and intentions.
And what does chosen advisor mean in Veltar society?
Her smile widened, taking on an almost mischievous quality. It means that you hold my personal confidence and that questioning your judgment is equivalent to questioning mine. It is a position of considerable authority and equally considerable risk. Marcus had the feeling that there were still important details she wasn't sharing, but before he could ask for clarification, the docking cycle completed and the airlock opened to reveal their first glimpse of the capital. The docking facility was beautiful beyond anything Marcus had imagined. Flowing architectural lines created spaces that felt more like natural formations than constructed buildings. Soft lighting seemed to emanate from the walls themselves, creating an ambience that was both welcoming and subtly impressive.
Their first encounter with Confederation security proved less welcoming.
Princess Zarathus, the security chief said in formal tones, your father has requested immediate private audience upon your arrival. The human is to be processed through standard diplomatic channels and quartered in the guest facility.
Marcus felt his stomach tighten at the obvious attempt to separate them immediately. Zarathus, however, seemed to have anticipated this development.
Commander Valkath, she replied with frosty authority, my advisor accompanies me to all official functions unless specifically excluded by council directive.
I trust that no such directive has been issued regarding matters of galactic trade policy?
The security chief's expression suggested he'd been hoping to avoid exactly this confrontation. No such directive has been issued, Princess. However, protocols regarding alien access to government facilities are superseded by my authority in matters relating to my official duties, Zarathus interrupted smoothly. Marcus Chin holds my personal seal and speaks with my voice on technical matters. Any delay in his access clearance constitutes interference with royal prerogatives. Marcus watched the exchange with fascination, noting how Zarathus used formal language and subtle implications to outmaneuver the security chief without directly challenging his authority.
The verbal fencing was as precise as any technical procedure he'd ever performed.
Very well, Princess, Commander Valkath said with obvious reluctance.
Full diplomatic credentials will be provided immediately.
However, I must note that your father specifically requested private audience. And he shall have it, after I have fulfilled my obligations to properly introduce my advisor to relevant government officials.
The High Chancellor understands the importance of maintaining proper diplomatic courtesies.
20 minutes later, Marcus found himself walking through corridors that redefined his understanding of architectural beauty. Every surface seemed to flow naturally into the next, creating spaces that felt simultaneously vast and intimate. The lighting shifted subtly to complement the time of day and the mood of different areas. Impressive, he commented as they passed what appeared to be a garden growing in open space with no visible support systems. The capital represents the finest achievements of Confederation civilization, Zarathus replied. Every design element demonstrates the harmony that results from cooperation between different species and cultures. Their first stop was the office of Trade Minister Velnarain, who would oversee any formal trade agreements between humans and the Confederation. Marcus had expected another elderly official focused on bureaucratic procedures. Instead, he found himself facing a relatively young Veltar who examined him with obvious curiosity. "So," Minister Velnarain said after the formal introductions were completed, "you are the human engineer who has caught our princess's attention. I admit to considerable interest in meeting a member of your species under diplomatic circumstances." "Thank you for the welcome," Marcus replied, remembering to include the proper acknowledgments of the minister's rank and birth weather. "I look forward to discussing areas where human and Confederation capabilities might complement each other." The minister's eyebrows rose slightly. "Excellent protocol adaptation. Princess Zarathes has prepared you well for Confederation society. Tell me, what is your assessment of our technological achievements compared to human capabilities?" Marcus recognized the question as a test and chose his words carefully. Confederation technology demonstrates sophistication and integration that humans are only beginning to understand. However, human approaches to problem solving sometimes identify opportunities that more advanced societies might overlook. Interesting. Can you provide a specific example? Marcus glanced at Zarathes, who nodded encouragingly. "Yesterday, I was able to improve the efficiency of the princess's fusion reactor by 7% through modifications that your original designers hadn't considered. Not because human technology is superior, but because we approach familiar problems from different angles." Minister Velnarain leaned forward, his interest clearly genuine. "You improved Veltar reactor design? That technology represents centuries of refinement by our finest engineers." "I made small adjustments based on patterns I recognized from human reactor management," Marcus explained. "Sometimes an outside perspective can identify improvements that specialists miss because they're too close to the established design paradigms." The minister exchanged meaningful looks with Zarathes. "Princess, if this claim can be verified, it represents exactly the kind of collaboration opportunity that could benefit both our civilizations." "The improvements are documented and easily reproducible," Zarathes confirmed. Marcus's work demonstrates human potential for enhancing rather than threatening Confederation achievements. Their meeting with the trade minister lasted 2 hours, covering technical assessments, economic projections, and preliminary frameworks for cooperation agreements. Marcus found himself genuinely enjoying the challenge of explaining human capabilities in terms that emphasized collaboration rather than competition. As they left the trade ministry, Marcus felt cautiously optimistic about their prospects for success. "That went better than I expected." Minister Velnarain seemed genuinely interested in cooperation opportunities. Zarathes nodded, but her expression remained serious. "The trade ministry represents the moderate faction. Our next meeting will be considerably more challenging. Who are we seeing next?" Defense Minister Velkoroth, leader of the hardline faction and primary advocate for preemptive action against human expansion. "He will view you as confirmation of his worst fears about human capabilities." Marcus felt his optimism evaporating. "So we're walking into a meeting with someone who already wants to start a war with my species?" "Precisely," Zarathes said grimly. "And your performance in that meeting may determine whether the Confederation Council authorizes military action against human colonies within the next 6 months." As they walked toward the defense ministry, Marcus realized that the real test of his diplomatic mission was just beginning. The defense ministry building projected an aura of military authority that made Marcus nervous the moment they entered. Unlike the flowing organic architecture of other government buildings, this structure emphasized sharp angles and imposing geometric forms designed to intimidate visitors. Defense Minister Velkoroth proved even more intimidating than his building. The Veltar military leader stood nearly 8 feet tall, with the characteristic pale blue skin bearing extensive scarring that suggested extensive combat experience. His golden eyes held none of the warmth that Marcus had seen in other Confederation officials. Instead, they studied him with the cold assessment of a predator evaluating potential prey. "Princess Zarathes," the defense minister said in a voice like grinding stone. "Your message indicated that you had acquired intelligence regarding human capabilities. I trust this intelligence is more substantial than the theoretical analyses you have previously submitted." Marcus felt the weight of scrutiny as those predatory eyes turned to examine him. Everything about Velkoroth suggested barely contained violence held in check only by military discipline and political necessity. "Minister Velkoroth," Zarathes replied with formal respect, "may I present Marcus Chen, technical advisor and representative of human engineering capabilities. He has provided practical demonstrations that support my previous assessments regarding human potential for technological innovation." A human engineer, Velkoroth said with obvious skepticism.
I assume you have brought this specimen here to demonstrate the primitive cleverness that your reports describe as advanced problem-solving ability.
Marcus felt his temper flare at being referred to as a specimen, but Zarathus's subtle hand signal warned him to maintain diplomatic composure.
Minister Velkoroth, he said carefully, I would be honored to demonstrate human approaches to technical challenges if that would assist in your evaluation of cooperation opportunities.
The defense minister's laugh contained no humor.
Cooperation opportunities.
Princess, you still believe that these creatures can be integrated into galactic civilization as useful partners? I see only confirmation of the threat they represent to established order.
What threat do you see, exactly?
Marcus asked, genuinely curious about the military leader's perspective. Velkoroth moved to a wall display that showed military intelligence reports spanning several years. Your species has established colonies in 47 star systems despite having no natural advantages in space travel, no advanced manufacturing base, and no established trade relationships.
You accomplish this through crude determination and reckless disregard for conventional limitations. Marcus studied the displayed information, noting details about human colonial expansion that he hadn't seen before.
We establish colonies because we need places for our people to live and work. Most of the worlds we settle are ones that other species don't want.
Precisely the problem, Velkoroth replied sharply. You thrive in environments that more civilized species consider uninhabitable. High-gravity worlds, toxic atmospheres, radiation zones that would kill any rational colonists.
This suggests military capabilities that contradict your apparent technological limitations. The accusation caught Marcus off guard.
You think we're hiding military technology because we can survive in harsh environments?
I think your species possesses natural advantages that make you inherently dangerous to galactic stability, the defense minister said. Combined with your rapid technological development and unconventional problem-solving abilities, these advantages create a strategic threat that cannot be ignored.
Zarathus stepped forward, her expression remaining diplomatically neutral despite obvious tension.
Minister, Marcus has provided practical demonstrations of human engineering capabilities.
Perhaps examining specific technical achievements would provide more accurate threat assessment than theoretical speculation.
Velkoroth activated a holographic display showing detailed schematics of various Confederation military technologies.
Very well.
If this human truly possesses the capabilities you claim, let him analyze our primary defense systems and identify potential improvements. Such analysis should be impossible for a primitive engineer. Marcus examined the displayed systems, recognizing sophisticated weapons platforms, shield generators, and sensor arrays that were centuries beyond human technology. However, as he studied the integration patterns and energy flow management, he began noticing familiar problems that suggested possible optimization opportunities. These are impressive systems, he said, choosing his words carefully.
Your energy distribution architecture is particularly elegant.
However, I notice some potential efficiency improvements in the power coupling between your primary weapons array and the shield generators.
Velkoroth's eyes narrowed. Explain.
Marcus pointed to specific components in the holographic display. Your current design alternates power between offensive and defensive systems to prevent overload conditions. But the switching protocols create momentary vulnerabilities during transition periods. With some minor adjustments to the power management algorithms, you could maintain both systems at near maximum efficiency simultaneously. The defense minister stared at the display for a long moment, his expression unreadable. The vulnerabilities you describe are classified military secrets.
How did you identify them from basic schematic information?
Pattern recognition, Marcus replied honestly.
Human engineers deal with power management challenges constantly because our technology is less efficient than yours.
We've developed intuitive understanding of energy flow problems that apparently transfer to more advanced systems.
Velkoroth turned to study Marcus with new intensity.
You have identified genuine weaknesses in our primary defense platforms within minutes of examination.
This confirms exactly what I feared about human capabilities. It confirms that human perspectives can enhance Confederation military effectiveness, Zarathus interjected.
Marcus's analysis could improve defensive capabilities for the entire Confederation fleet. Or it could provide human military planners with detailed intelligence regarding our defensive vulnerabilities, Velkoroth countered. Princess, your advisor has just demonstrated that humans possess the analytical capabilities to penetrate our most secure military systems.
How does this support your argument for cooperation rather than preemptive action?
Marcus realized that his technical demonstration had backfired spectacularly. Instead of proving human value as allies, he confirmed the defense minister's worst fears about human strategic capabilities.
Minister Velkoroth, he said carefully, the ability to identify problems doesn't automatically translate to the ability to exploit them. Humans analyze systems to improve them, not to attack them.
Your intentions are irrelevant, Velkoroth replied coldly.
What matters is capability.
You have proven that human engineers can identify critical weaknesses in our most advanced military technology.
This capability alone justifies extreme measures to prevent human access to Confederation systems. Zarathes moved closer to the display, her expression becoming more formal and authoritative.
Minister, you are drawing conclusions that ignore the strategic value of the intelligence Marcus has provided. Instead of viewing his analysis as a threat, consider the advantages of incorporating his insights into improved defensive systems. I consider the advantages of ensuring that no human engineer ever again gains access to Confederation military technology, Velkoroth said flatly.
The security implications of this demonstration are unacceptable.
Marcus felt the situation spiraling out of control and decided that diplomatic protocol was less important than preventing a catastrophic misunderstanding.
Look, I'm not a spy or a military analyst. I'm just a guy who fixes broken machines for a living. I identified those problems because that's what engineers do. We look at systems and figure out how to make them work better.
Velkorotha's attention focused on him with predatory intensity.
And what do human military engineers do when they analyze alien defensive systems? The same thing, I assume.
Try to understand how they work and how to improve them.
The difference is motivation, not capability.
Precisely my point, the defense minister said with grim satisfaction. Human capabilities remain constant regardless of stated intentions. Today you analyze our systems to improve them. Tomorrow, human military forces use identical analytical abilities to identify weaknesses for attack purposes. The logic was unassailable, and Marcus realized that he'd walked into a trap created by his own competence.
Every demonstration of human engineering ability only reinforced Velkorotha's argument that humans represented an unacceptable strategic risk.
Minister, Zarathes said formally, I request permission to present alternative strategic assessments to the full Defense Council. The implications of human analytical capabilities deserve comprehensive evaluation rather than summary judgment. Velkoroth studied her with calculating eyes.
You wish to present this human to the full council as evidence supporting cooperation policies?
I wish to present comprehensive intelligence regarding human capabilities and strategic implications thereof, she replied with diplomatic precision.
The council deserves complete information before making policy decisions that could affect galactic stability. Indeed they do.
The defense minister activated his communication system and spoke in rapid Veltar that Marcus couldn't follow. After a brief exchange, he turned back to them with an expression that suggested unpleasant surprises ahead.
The council will convene tomorrow to review intelligence regarding human strategic capabilities, he announced.
Princess Zarathes will present her analysis supporting cooperation policies. I will present counter-analysis supporting immediate containment measures.
Marcus felt his stomach drop. What kind of containment measures?
Velkorotha's smile was devoid of warmth.
Economic sanctions, territorial restrictions, and, if necessary, military action to prevent further human expansion into strategic sectors.
The Council will determine which measures are appropriate based on the threat assessment evidence.
And I'm the evidence, Marcus said grimly.
You are indeed. Your demonstration today has provided both factions with compelling arguments for their respective positions.
Tomorrow, the Council will decide whether humans represent valuable allies or dangerous enemies requiring immediate action.
As they left the Defense Ministry, Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders like a crushing burden.
His attempt to demonstrate human value as allies had instead provided ammunition for those advocating war against his species.
That could have gone better, he commented as they walked through the government complex.
Zarathes was silent for several minutes, apparently deep in thought. When she finally spoke, her voice carried new determination.
The situation has become more complex than I anticipated, but not necessarily hopeless.
Velkoratha's reaction confirms that human capabilities exceed even my estimates. Is that good or bad for preventing war?
It depends on how effectively we can frame those capabilities when we address the full council tomorrow.
We have one opportunity to convince 47 species that humans represent enhancement rather than replacement of galactic civilization. Marcus thought about the defense minister's cold assessment of human strategic capabilities. And if we fail to convince them?
Zarathas stopped walking and turned to face him directly.
Then, the Confederation will likely authorize military action against human colonies within 60 days.
Your species will find itself fighting a war against opponents possessing technology and resources that dwarf anything in human space. The prospect of such a conflict was terrifying, but Marcus found himself focusing on more immediate concerns.
What exactly are we going to tell the Council that we didn't tell Velkorath?
He seemed pretty convinced that human analytical abilities make us inherently dangerous. We are going to demonstrate that human adaptability and innovation can solve problems that threaten the entire Confederation, Zarathas said with growing confidence. The defense minister sees only threats because he thinks in terms of conflict and competition. The full council includes scientists, economists, and social theorists who understand the value of new perspectives.
What kind of problems are we talking about?
Zarathas resumed walking, but now her steps carried purpose and energy. Problems that have resisted solution despite centuries of effort by the galaxy's finest minds.
Challenges that require exactly the kind of unconventional thinking that makes Velkorath consider humans dangerous.
Marcus felt a glimmer of hope returning.
And, you think I can provide solutions that Confederation experts have missed?
I think human approaches to impossible problems might save galactic civilization, she said seriously. Tomorrow, we find out whether the Council agrees with that assessment or decides that the risks outweigh the potential benefits. As they approached the royal quarters where Marcus would spend the night before addressing the most powerful political body in the galaxy, he wondered whether his engineering skills would prove adequate for the challenge ahead.
The fate of human civilization might depend on his ability to convince alien leaders that humans could enhance rather than threaten their carefully constructed galactic order.
The pressure was enormous, but Marcus found himself looking forward to the challenge. After all, impossible problems were what human engineers did best. Tomorrow would determine whether that capability was enough to prevent a war that could devastate both human and Confederation space.
The Confederation Council chamber was the most intimidating space Marcus had ever entered.
Representatives from 47 different species sat in carefully arranged sections that accommodated everything from aquatic beings in environmental suits to energy creatures that existed as pure light. The architectural design somehow managed to provide appropriate environments for all of them while maintaining the formal dignity required for galactic governance. Marcus stood beside Zarathas at the central presentation platform, acutely aware that every decision made in this chamber could affect billions of lives across hundreds of star systems. His simple human frame felt impossibly small surrounded by beings whose civilizations had mastered space travel while his ancestors were still discovering fire. High Chancellor Velnathan called the session to order with a voice that carried both authority and the weight of millennia of tradition. Marcus noted the weather pattern references in the formal opening and felt grateful for Zarathas's preparation in diplomatic protocols. This council convenes to evaluate intelligence regarding human technological capabilities and strategic implications thereof, the High Chancellor announced. Princess Zarathas Velnatha will present analysis supporting expanded cooperation with human civilization. Defense Minister Velkorath will present counter-analysis regarding security concerns.
Zarathas stepped forward, her bearing radiating confidence and authority. Honored counselors, I present Marcus Chen, technical advisor and representative of human engineering capabilities. Over the past month, I have documented human technological insights that suggest unprecedented opportunities for galactic advancement. She activated the chamber's holographic display system, showing detailed technical analyses of Marcus's work on her ship's fusion reactor. The improvement statistics drew murmurs of interest from the scientific representatives. As you can observe, she continued, human analytical approaches achieved efficiency improvements that our finest engineers considered impossible. This represents not primitive luck, but sophisticated understanding applied from unique perspectives. Defense Minister Velkorath rose from his section, his imposing frame commanding immediate attention. Honored counselors, I do not dispute the technical achievements Princess Zarathas has documented. Indeed, they confirm the precise capabilities that make humans strategically dangerous to galactic stability.
The holographic display shifted to show military intelligence reports detailing human colonial expansion and technological development rates. Marcus winced as he saw how threatening human progress looked when presented from a military perspective.
Note the exponential curve of human advancement, Velkoroth continued.
In 50 years, they have progressed from planetary confinement to multi-system colonization.
Their technological development rate exceeds established norms by factors that suggest either hidden advantages or systematic deception regarding their true capabilities.
Counselor HFY of the Crystalline Collective spoke next, her crystalline form refracting light as she communicated through harmonic resonance.
Defense Minister Velkoroth, does rapid development necessarily indicate hostile intent?
Many species achieve breakthrough periods during their emergence into galactic society.
Counselor HFY raises an important distinction, Velkoroth replied. Most species achieve rapid advancement through acquisition of existing galactic technologies. Humans demonstrate advancement through innovation and adaptation that suggests independent analytical capabilities.
Marcus realized that his competence was being interpreted as evidence of dangerous independence rather than valuable collaboration potential. He glanced at Zareth, who nodded slightly to indicate it was time for him to speak.
Honored counselors, Marcus began, trying to project confidence despite his nervousness. I understand the concern about human technological development.
However, I believe there may be misunderstanding about our motivations and methods. His voice carried clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems, and he felt the weight of alien attention focusing on him with intimidating intensity.
Humans develop technology rapidly because we face survival challenges that require constant innovation, he continued. Most of our colonies exist in environments that other species consider uninhabitable. We adapt quickly because failure to adapt means death.
Counselor Morthek of the Silicon Hegemony gestured with appendages that looked like living metal. Human Marcus Chen, this adaptive capability is precisely what concerns those who view your species as potentially destabilizing.
How do we distinguish between defensive adaptation and preparation for aggressive expansion?
The question struck at the heart of the debate, and Marcus realized that simple technical demonstrations wouldn't resolve the fundamental trust issue. He needed to address the political implications directly. By observing results rather than capabilities, he said, drawing on insights from his conversations with Zareth.
Human colonies focus on survival and development, not military buildup or territorial conquest. We adapt to harsh environments because we have no choice, not because we're preparing for war. Defense Minister Velkoroth activated a new display showing human colonial distribution patterns. Counselor Morthek observed the strategic implications of human settlement patterns.
They establish colonies in systems that other species avoid, creating forward positions that could support military operations throughout this sector. Or creating homes for people who have nowhere else to go, Marcus countered. Those harsh worlds you see as strategic positions are places where humans can build lives without competing with established galactic civilizations for resources. The debate continued for hours, with representatives from different species raising questions that revealed the complex web of concerns surrounding human emergence into galactic politics. Marcus found himself fielding inquiries about everything from human psychological stability to the theoretical limits of human technological advancement. Through it all, he tried to present honest assessments while emphasizing cooperation over competition. However, he could see that many counselors remained unconvinced by arguments that relied on human good intentions rather than verifiable constraints on human capabilities. The session took a dramatic turn when Counselor Velthesis of the Ancient Archive spoke for the first time. The elderly Veltar was rumored to possess more knowledge of galactic history than entire civilizations, and his words carried enormous weight in council deliberations. I have observed this debate with great interest, Counselor Velthesis said in a voice aged by centuries of wisdom.
However, I believe we are addressing the wrong question.
The issue is not whether humans represent a potential threat, but whether the Confederation can afford to oppose a species with demonstrated adaptive capabilities. His statement sent ripples of surprise through the chamber.
Marcus felt Zareth tense beside him as the political dynamics shifted unexpectedly.
Explain your meaning, Counselor, the High Chancellor requested.
Velthesis activated his own display, showing galactic survey data that Marcus didn't recognize.
For 3 decades, our deep space monitoring stations have detected systematic expansion of an unknown species from beyond the galactic rim. Analysis suggests technological capabilities that exceed our own, with expansion rates that will bring them into Confederation space within 20 years.
The chamber erupted in alarmed discussions as representatives absorbed this shocking revelation.
Marcus stared at the display, realizing that the debate about human capabilities had suddenly become much more complex. The Confederation faces potential contact with a truly alien civilization possessing superior technology, Valthesis continued. In such circumstances, the question becomes whether human analytical capabilities represent a threat to existing order or a resource for addressing unprecedented challenges.
Defense Minister Velkoroth was silent for several minutes, apparently re-evaluating his position in light of this new information.
When he spoke, his tone had shifted from hostility to grudging calculation.
Counselor Valthesis, are you suggesting that human capabilities might be useful for addressing this external threat?
I am suggesting that the luxury of maintaining galactic order through exclusion of disruptive elements may no longer be available to us, the ancient counselor replied. If we face contact with advanced hostile civilizations, we need every possible advantage, including the unconventional problem-solving abilities that make humans seem dangerous to established order.
Zarathes stepped forward, seizing the opportunity to reframe the entire debate. Honored counselors, this intelligence transforms our strategic calculations. Human adaptability and innovation represent exactly the capabilities needed for addressing unknown challenges from advanced civilizations. Marcus found himself studying the external threat data with growing excitement rather than fear. The engineering challenges implied by faster-than-light travel from beyond the galaxy were staggering, but also fascinating from a technical perspective. May I examine the propulsion signatures from these unknown vessels? He asked, surprising himself with his boldness. Counselor Valthesis granted access to the technical data, and Marcus spent several minutes analyzing energy patterns and acceleration curves that defied conventional understanding. However, as he studied the information, familiar patterns began emerging from the apparent impossibility. These propulsion systems use principles similar to quantum entanglement manipulation, he said thoughtfully. The energy requirements would be enormous by conventional standards, but if you could create stable entanglement between ship-based generators and external energy sources, you could achieve effective faster-than-light travel without violating physical laws. The chamber fell silent as the implications of his analysis sank in.
Marcus had just provided theoretical framework for technology that Confederation scientists had been unable to understand despite decades of observation.
Impossible, breathed Counselor Morthek. Stable quantum entanglement over galactic distances would require precision beyond current technological capabilities.
Not if you use biological quantum structures as stabilizing elements, Marcus replied, his engineering instincts fully engaged. Some organic compounds maintain quantum coherence under conditions that would destabilize mechanical systems. If these unknown species developed biological technology integration, they could achieve stable entanglement manipulation.
Defense Minister Velkoroth studied the propulsion data with new understanding. Human Marcus Chen, if your analysis is correct, these unknown vessels represent technology centuries beyond our current capabilities. How do you suggest the Confederation should respond to such advanced threats?
Marcus looked around the chamber, seeing 47 different species united in facing an unprecedented challenge. By doing what humans do best, adapting to impossible conditions and finding solutions that others might overlook.
But, not just humans.
Every species here brings unique perspectives and capabilities.
Combined properly, those different approaches might achieve breakthroughs that no single civilization could manage alone.
High Chancellor Velnathan rose from his position, bringing formal gravity to the moment. The intelligence presented today requires immediate strategic revision.
Defense Minister Velkoroth, what is your updated recommendation regarding human integration into Confederation defense planning?
Velkoroth was quiet for a long moment, clearly struggling with concepts that contradicted his previous assumptions. Given the external threat assessment, I recommend immediate establishment of joint research initiatives between human engineers and Confederation scientists. Human analytical capabilities may prove essential for developing effective responses to advanced unknown technologies. The transformation was remarkable. In the space of a few hours, Marcus had gone from being viewed as a dangerous security risk to becoming a strategic asset for galactic defense. The irony wasn't lost on him, human capabilities remained exactly the same, but the context had shifted from threat to opportunity. The council session concluded with authorization for expanded cooperation between humans and the Confederation, including technology sharing agreements and joint research facilities. Marcus found himself appointed as primary human liaison for the new cooperative initiatives, with responsibilities that would keep him busy for years to come. As they left the council chamber, Zarathus looked both relieved and excited about the possibilities ahead. "That was not the outcome I expected when we began this journey," she commented.
"You mean the part where external threats made human adaptability useful instead of dangerous?" Marcus asked.
"I mean the part where you achieved in one day what I had hoped might be possible over several years of careful diplomacy," she replied with a smile that held new warmth alongside the familiar mischief.
The Council didn't just approve cooperation, they made it essential for galactic defense. Marcus considered the implications of his new role as human liaison to galactic civilization. "So what happens now? Do I go back to human space to set up these joint research programs?" Zarathus's smile widened.
"Actually, there is one more aspect of Veltar customs that we should discuss. The royal seal you carry grants you certain privileges and responsibilities that extend beyond your technical advisory role."
"What kind of privileges and responsibilities?"
"The kind that typically require permanent residence in Confederation space," she said with obvious satisfaction. "I hope you didn't have any pressing commitments back in human territory, because your quiet life as an independent engineer is officially over." Marcus looked around the magnificent capital complex, thinking about the adventures and challenges that lay ahead. He'd come here expecting to help prevent a war and, instead, found himself at the center of preparations for defending galactic civilization against unknown threats.
"Well," he said finally, "I always wanted to work on interesting engineering problems. I suppose this qualifies."
Zarathus laughed, a sound that carried joy and promise of shared adventures ahead.
"Marcus Chen, you have no idea how interesting your life is about to become."
As they walked toward the royal quarters that would serve as his new home base, Marcus reflected on the remarkable chain of events that had brought him here. A simple repair job had led to political intrigue, diplomatic challenges, and, ultimately, to a role in defending galactic civilization itself. The universe was indeed much larger and more exciting than he had ever suspected. And, despite the dangers and responsibilities ahead, he found himself looking forward to discovering what other impossible problems human engineering might help solve in the vast cosmos beyond Earth's distant sky.